Well, it's, we don't know enough that in cases where human behavior really is unpredictable and it looks like a coin is being flipped, it's possible that, like the first computer that I ever used when I was an undergraduate, this was a PDP-11 mini computer, where the lab needed generate random sequences, and it didn't have the computational power to do a proper pseudo-random approximation. And so there was a gadget that had a little bit of some kind of radioactive substance, and I don't know if it was radium, and a little Geiger counter, and it actually used the physical indeterminacy to generate the random numbers. It's possible that in the human brain there are quantum level interactions so that whether a neurotransmitter molecule zigs instead of zags could be due to some kind of ultimately quantum event that gets amplified, or it could be some kind of nonlinearity, some sort of chaotic system where some very minuscule infinitesimal difference in the initial conditions can set the brain off in one direction or another. It wouldn't be truly random, but it would be the functional equivalent of random. And it may begin, the seed may be, were you, this way in your mother's womb or that way in your mother's womb, or did your mom, jog for 1 mile or 2 miles on a particular day? So I think the indeterminacy, to the extent that there is indeterminacy, and as I mentioned in the case of the cars coming down the highway, we hope that in many cases of human behavior there is not indeterminacy, but the indeterminacy that there is, like should I order chocolate or vanilla, could come from physical processes with a random seed of either of those events. Okay, why don't we take one more?
I was fascinated by, in the nature-nurture debate about your injection of the role of chance. So this kind of follow-up question to the one you were just addressing, and I was hoping you could expand a little bit on some of the ways in which chance events play a role in our psyche and perhaps even in psychopathology, for example, in adults.
Well, so here are some of the possibilities. I mean, again, just to make it very clear, the datum that we're trying to explain is as follows. Identical twins reared together typically correlate maybe, let's say, 0.5. That is less than 100%. Now, they share their genes and they share their environment, or at least most of their environment. This refutes just about every theory in the history of psychology because there's this huge percentage of the variance that's neither heredity nor measurable environment. Here are some of the possibilities. Chance events in the development of the brain in utero or in the first few years of life while the brain is still developing. Such as the ones that I just mentioned. Does a growth cone of an axon go left or go right? Chance events in other biological events. Do you inhale a virus, or does a virus get purchased in your cells or get just surrounded by the immune system? And it's possible that some of the missing variants in diseases and pathology could come from pathogens. Chance events, throughout your life, you pick up a brochure and some field that you never knew about turns you on, and you decide from that moment on that you've always wanted to be a cognitive psychologist or a trapeze artist. You bump into someone and they say something, and you think about it, and you think some more about it, and you do something that sets you off in a direction, and then that kind of puts you on a groove that leads you farther and farther apart from your identical twin who didn't have that conversation. So these are some of the possibilities that could add up.
Biological chance events, cultural chance events, really a whole panoply of different...
Yes, exactly.
Probably a larger role than has ever been acknowledged as far as you're concerned.
Exactly. And some of the corroboration of that suspicion comes from studies of development in laboratory organisms such as C. elegans, the roundworm, or Drosophila, the fruit fly, which shows that in highly inbred strains, which are the equivalent of clones or identical twins, brought up in monotonous, highly controlled laboratory conditions, same temperature and salinity and so on, you can have organisms that are physically different, that can have different numbers of bristles under one wing or under another wing. In the case of roundworms, you can have differences in longevity of a factor of 3. And as one longevity specialist studying C. elegans pointed out that the variation in the lifespan of genetically homogeneous roundworms brought up in laboratory conditions is the same as what we find in human beings living a variety of lifestyles, neglecting or taking care of their health, bumping into enraged postal workers, eating tainted beef. All of these vagaries of human life give us variance in our lifespan, which is the same as basically the equivalent of clones growing up in a monotonous laboratory. So chance, if it has that much of an effect in an organism that's only composed of 959 cells, imagine how chance could operate in an organism of trillions of cells.